Batman issue 64 has a very cool looking cover by Win Mortimer. The only good thing about the first story is that Vicky Vale is back, and every time she appears it raises every story by at least 1 point because she's my favorite character so far. Also, just to give you an idea of the pacing of these comics, right here, Batman and Robin get shot. You wanna know what happens in the next page? The story ends. They capture the villain in the next page. They go from being shot, faking their own death, and capture a villain all in 1 page. In 1 page. The second story is just as boring as the first one, except that it doesn't have Vicky Vale, which means that it's worse than the first one. The final story is the return of Killer Moth. If you haven't seen my last video, that was the first appearance of Killer Moth. Because he got defeated by Batman, he's the laughingstock of the criminal world. So he's like, okay, I gotta lock in. I gotta figure out who Batman is so I can kill him. You asked me to remind you of the museum board of directors meeting tonight, Mr. Burns. Thank you, Smithers. If those stuffed shirts at the museum only knew that Mr. Burns, their fellow director, is really Killer Moth. What happens next is one of the most convoluted moments in the entirety of the comics so far. Batman and Killer Moth fight in a museum next to an x-ray machine, which ends up taking an x-ray of them, which Bruce is worried could reveal, but actually they're both worried that it could reveal who they are. Now, I haven't looked this up, but I'm like 90% sure you cannot find out who someone is just by their skeleton. But you definitely couldn't do that in the 1950s. The way Bruce gets out of this is by saying that this other scientist said he was gonna scan some Neanderthals fighting, and that this is what this is, even though they could easily just ask the guy if that's what he did. Sadly, at the end of the story, Killer Moth gets caught, which I don't know how they're gonna, I guess he still doesn't know who Bruce Wayne is, so he might still try to figure that out, and that might be his whole thing. I don't know, I hope they bring him back. I hope they erase Bruce's memory of who he is. I hope they find another Killer Moth, so they can have this dynamic again of like both of them not knowing who the other one is, because that was the most fun part. And a very interesting villain that they immediately ruined in the next issue, which is crazy because they milk other villains for way too long.